Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Vidcast. Those of you who do not know me, my name is Adam S. Copperhead's GM, the dad, assorted saver of other random things as the third punchline. Got off-season going on right now. Got a lot of things going on right now. Daisy's napping, so I don't know if we're gonna get a Daisy tax today. And for those of you who can see, yes, that's Mrs. S back there. No, she doesn't want to talk to you. No, she's not joining the league. Those are all the questions. I'm gonna get into questions pretty quickly, because obviously there's a couple of topics everybody wants to talk about. I figured, anyway. I did allude to it in my setup questions. I did just see some cool new news in that the San Antonio Marshals are no more, so go ahead and check on the site if you haven't seen that. They're now going to be the Minnesota Grey Ducks, which is interesting. And bonus points, their logo looks like the state of Minnesota has a big frozen penis. So I'm in favor. Echo, your comment about that in rookie chat, not rookie chat, regular chat. I literally just saw it as I was saying that. So this is why I usually cover Discord and put the recording screen here, so I don't see random shit and get distracted. Because I'm easily distracted anyway. But anything that questions don't cover, I'll probably talk about at the end anyway. So let's just jump right in and deal with that now and enjoy this wonderful natural lighting we have. It's great. Good lighting there. Cat tree here. No, the kitty cat is still in hiding though, so it's gonna take some time. She had a rough start, so she's got a safe room back there behind that wall. And she's not out yet. She will be eventually, but it'll take time with these things. So let's go straight to questions. And oh look, Ghosty's on the phone. That's helpful. Okay, here we go. Starts out with Moody, as is appropriate. Sole running back of Austin. We're gonna go for that, I'm sure. All right, let's start with him, who already warned me that he just listened to Joe's podcast before this, which is funny because I listened to Joe's podcast right before I put up the question thread last night. So that's what I do. Whenever Joe drops a podcast, I'm like, okay, I'm getting a bunch of chores done now, so I can walk around. Cause sometimes I have to leave the house and go get water, or go shopping, or whatever. It's the perfect time to pop on this podcast and do a bunch of stuff. Just listen to Joe's podcast. My questions are themed that way. Robinson. To help you get that 1.5 bonus, I love you. You're awesome. What are your predictions this season? And more importantly, where were Joe's predictions wrong? What are you thinking? How can I make you fight? Man, it's gonna be a bloodbath in the SFC. Which isn't news. No one's surprised by this. We had thought we were going to be able to possibly compete for first this season. That is obviously not going to happen unless all of our bad sim luck breaks flip right now this season. We're going to compete, but I don't think we're going to compete for first. Jesus, there's either Arizona or OCO could end up in first. Any team except San Jose could end up in second and third and fourth. I think San Jose is still down at the bottom. They're the bottom feeders. That's what they've chosen to be. On the other side, it's kind of the same thing, except everybody's sort of in the middle, except for Yellowknife. You've got Yellowknife, and then you've got everybody else. I didn't do that at all very well. Yellowknife, everybody else. Here. There's a whole range of who the fuck knows what's gonna happen. you could very well go into a scenario like last season where Week 13 starts and the last place team is still playoff eligible. I think that'll probably happen there. I don't foresee, other than Chicago. Chicago's probably going to drop off pretty heavily. But other than Chicago, no, probably Chicago. I'm going to agree with what Joe said. They're probably clearly the worst team in the league right now. San Jose has already rebounded. Philadelphia has already rebounded. They're working their way up. Joe is being very nice about you on his podcast. What did you put in his drink to make that happen? I don't think Joe's that kind of guy. I very much appreciated what Joe said. Because those are things, I say too much, don't I? Those are things these are things I work on. So to have him call them out as being things that he really enjoys and respects, it's humbling in a way, but it's pretty great to know that I have his trust for matters like this, and that my judgment is good enough for him. It's pretty cool. It's what you want in a co-GM, especially when you specifically sought out a co-GM who will call you a bullshit. So, yeah. But if I was going to put something in his drink, it would be bourbon and sweet tea. Yeah. Why can't you have awesome intro music like Joe? Because if I do, I have to have terrible exit music like Joe. Alright, thank you for the questions, Booty. Can't wait to get you so many yards and touchdowns this year. We're gonna crush shit. It's not just this year, going forward, but I also agree with Joe's sentiment. #1 fantasy pick, or you're stupid. That's what it is. Those are your options. You can choose freely between them, and I respect your choice. Thank you, Moody. Valor. You really gonna ask me the same questions? Yes, these are literally the same questions. You literally asked me the same questions you asked Joe. The same 4 questions. I'm debating whether I should even answer them. What does Chicago need to be relevant again? Learn how to ask different questions. What is your reaction to the Leaf trade? But then I was like, and then I did this. For like an hour and a half, I just rocked back and forth like this. That was my reaction. No, that wasn't my reaction. My reaction was, I've gotten more out of Chicago for that. Which playoff team from last season has the highest chance to miss the playoffs? The answer is still us, or whichever of the NFC teams just goes. How do you convince a free agent to sign with you? How the fuck would I know? Have you seen any free agents sign with us? Not that we pitched to many, but I've got my second place GM recruiting badge pinned firmly here, just off camera. You can't see it, but it's there. Just do all the shit Joe told you to do. Just do what Joe said. All that shit. Okay, just calm down and focus on building internally what you want the team to be before you focus on signing people. Signing people is a long-term thing. Yeah, you're gonna suck for like this season or two. Just fucking deal with it. Focus on building the shit internally, and then you go externally and start bringing people in or getting people, convincing people to come in or what have you. You need an identity that people can like or dislike or make a choice on. Right now, you don't have an identity. Your identity is like a collapsing fucking star right now, okay? So you need to get the hell out of there before it becomes a full-on black hole. Ooh, that's good. That's good. So get your shit together. Listen to the veterans in your locker room. Talk to the people that are actually active in your locker room. Figure out what they want. Talk to Toasty. Figure out what he wants. Talk to yourself, I guess. Just get your shit together and stop being an asshole who whines when people don't sign anything. Big deal. Like, nobody's saying completely shut up about it. If somebody leaves or you don't get a free agent, there's an expected level of joking about it, or a little aw shucks, or a little complaining because you get to do that, because quite frankly, that's positive. The fact that teams are like, damn, I didn't get that person, and that makes me slightly appropriately bitter, is actually a boost to that person. I was valued by more than just the team I got to. But y'all need to not be so dramatic. That's what you need. To focus on figuring out what the hell culture you want first, and then starting it, laying foundation, and then focus on all this other stuff. Thank you for your questions, even though you didn't really ask me any new questions. You just asked me the same shit you asked Joe. If you do that again, I'm not answering questions. There you go. Not mad. Mertzy, Bacon Brother. I like that I call you by every name except the names you've actually got written down. Just because I knew you as Mertzy first because of Discord, and so I call you Mertzy. What team do you think will have the highest fall off next season? Chicago, probably, because they actually did decently. So, what team do you think will make the biggest improvement? San Jose. Not that you're going to see it necessarily, because they go up against the toughest competition in the league. When 10 teams in the league, right? And you can argue that Yellowknives have one, but then you can argue that the 4 ASFC teams above San Jose are then better than every other team in the NSFC. So there's an argument that you're mostly competing if you're San Jose against teams 2, 3, 4, and 5, which makes it very difficult because that's the majority of your schedule. That's what you're competing for playoff spots with. That's everything. So I think San Jose will have a big improvement. They added some people. They're continuing the build that they had started last year. I just don't necessarily think you're going to see it. How was preparing for this draft compared to the last one? Way easier. We didn't do anything. We literally traded our pick way ahead of time, and our plan was to trade our second pick as well. And really, there were effectively only 2 picks because there weren't enough players to go to a third round, really. Second round pick got derailed. Joe already touched on this on his podcast, but we had an offer or two, and then someone Chicago had the ability to match that offer, and then Chicago's GMs just kind of disappeared for 2 days ish. And so when I sort of got an offer, I'm saying, hey, here's the matching, and I gotta wait, and waiting, and they don't get back to me, and then the other offers kind of fizzles, and we literally did delay the draft by a day because of this. So I won't, in the future, I think I won't be accepting any of those kinds of clauses just for that reason. But yeah, we did no scouting, no interviews, no talking to people. It was kind of missed it a little bit actually, but our real prep for this draft came way before this draft, because by the time the last draft happened, I knew, hey, our next draft is pretty much nothing. We don't need anyone. We legitimately have more than enough people, and we might actually have to lose someone. As it turned out, that happened. Originally, I thought I might actually have to retire just to make sure we get all the actives in, but that didn't work out that way. So the real prep was, let's get these picks traded. Let's get some value going and pay that value forward. which is good because it turns out that Plan A, Plan B, Plan C, Plan D, and I think Plan E all didn't work. That's how it goes sometimes. Um, yeah, yeah. I don't want to go into too much without breaking into specific strategy stuff, but that's kind of the difference. Next draft, we're going to be much more active, obviously. We've got 2 firsts and 2 seconds, and 2 thirds, actually. So, yeah, that's going to be fun. And we, I think, might end up with the top pick. So, we'll see. Austin's going to get interesting. Although, Austin doesn't have a great history with number one picks. Can't believe I found out this way. If the Copperheads competed in Survivor, who would you pick to win? Other than you. That's smart that I'm not allowed to pick myself. And who would do most of the backstabbing? Dermot. Dermot would do most of the backstabbing. Dermot would be mad if I didn't say Dermot would do most of the backstabbing. But I think Kane. I'm gonna go with Kane to win. My dude Kane. He's smart, but he's not. He's not gonna be like Grand Admiral throne on anybody. He's just smart. He gets along with people. He's the kind of person you want to stick around. And presumably, we're doing physical challenges. He's in pretty good physical shape. He's a medic, for those of you who don't know, so he's got that. That comes up on their show at least every so often. So for something like Survivor, he'd have a valued skill set where they'd want to keep him around for a long time, and he's got that intelligence and got that ability to basically just not piss people off all the time. I think he'd go pretty deep. And with those kind of games, with the Survivor-like game, it's hard to. I'm definitely the host since I can't choose myself. I'm definitely replacing Jeff Probst. I'm the host. That's awesome. With those kind of games, once you get down to several people, it can go much different ways. So you can't really say this is it, that's the person that's going to win, but he's the person I think would be most likely. Thank you for your questions, sir. Tom Hanks. What are you proudest of in your time as GM of the Copperheads? I don't know, that's tough. I assume you mean just GMing in general, because it'd be totally cheap if I was like, well, here's something I did in my real life during the time I was GM. There's so many options. There's so many people who have flourished, or like we were talking in Werewolf last night. Every time someone resigns an extension or a new contract, and they're like, "You better put a no trade clause in for me." That's always, gives you a little bit of pride. These people do not want to leave. That first win we got the second time, that was pretty awesome. Seeing the plan slowly come together. I knew the plan was going to come together. I understood all the pieces, what was going on. Put all these pieces in place with the help of Joe, the help of War Room, who also don't always see the full picture I see, and I'm not always good at sharing it. So it was great to see as the seasons have gone on, as 1, 2, 3 seasons have happened, to see it starting to show out. To see things like Easton Cole last year, where until the last game of the season, or even counting that, he was so far ahead of where everybody thought he was going to be. I'm proud of being able to take hits and keep rolling. To come into situations where we suddenly have to change all of our plans and be able to to kind of dance around and make that happen. We've got some exciting things coming up after all that's going on. Joe alluded to it. We have Django Inoi's replacement already on the team. Django is going to retire at some point this season. TLK is just busy right now because he got promoted at work and he's running all kinds of stuff, and so he's going to get around to that. So we've got someone ready to come in who I am very excited about. I kind of want to reveal it. Yeah, fuck it, I'm going to reveal it. Upper Net, aka Net Gains, he's going to switch to wide receiver at the end of the year, and him and SD are going to be our guys going forward. And then of course we switched to Trella as well, so we've got a nice third option who's going to come in there as well, and I'm pretty excited about that going forward. Our pass game is going to be fucking deadly, which is awesome. And then you throw in Moody, who's going to have that amazing run game, and our offense is going to continue to be a top 2 offense in the league. Because at the end of the day, even though a lot of people want to discount actually scoring touchdowns in the sim, you win by actually scoring touchdowns in the sim. So actually scoring touchdowns is important. One more time for those playing the home game. Actually scoring touchdowns. So I'm proud of the way we've built a flexible team. A team that can adjust to the myriad of situations that happen. I almost grabbed the mic and coughed into it. You know, the opposite of what you want. What are you most looking forward to seeing in the league this season? The Copperheads. I mean, I'm biased. I think we're going to be, despite any watchability rankings, I think we're going to continue to be the most exciting team in the league. I very strongly believe we were the most exciting team to watch last season. I think we're going to continue and assert that excitability dominance this season. So, yeah. Suck it. I don't know why. You now famously are not a fan of pants. I've always been famously not a fan of pants. You people just stumbled on it now. Do you have a preferred type of clothing you wear instead, or do you Winnie the Pooh it? I've Winnie the Pooh'd it more than once. I love that I immediately knew what you meant by that. I can't do that so much anymore because, you know, there's a type of person who runs around the house most of the time. Usually shorts and stuff like that. I walk around in boxers a fair amount when I can. But yeah, I'm not really a fan of pants. I'm wearing pants now because I have to leave for work in like 45 minutes, but that's pretty much what it is. One of the things when I get home, and I know I don't have to go back out, is take off the pants. There's actually a sign somewhere around here that says always wear the pants on. We have little signs all around the house, which is nice. Enjoy this. Shorts. Yeah. And a robe. Like a good robe. Kind of Jedi robe that my wife bought me some years ago, which is big and comfy and awesome. Thank you for your question, sir. Vex chimes in with questions that have been asked, and people, for those of you who don't read my questions, it says, if you were arrested with no explanation, what would your friends and family assume you had done? And similar questions to this have been asked about me, and the general responses that people are too afraid to answer. So I don't know what that means. I assume I don't know. We don't know. Something. It's not like anybody would assume meth dealer or anything, so that's good. maybe some version of what did you say and to who. Nothing bad. I feel like nothing. I could confidently say they would probably assume nothing bad, nothing evil, rather. More people would assume craziness or something you said or something someone deserved or etc. etc. If you could have a song that every time you enter a room, what would it be? Oh, song. God. This is like, what is your wrestler song? Kind of. I don't know if I would want one song. Run the Jewels, Legend Has It. Because it's just a. Yeah, that's the answer to that question. It's a great song. It's got a good beat. Gets you pumped up. Lets you know a little bit about my character. Thank you for your questions, Bex. Toasty. Oh, look who signed on. Oh, I already made that joke, didn't I? Who do you think, player or team, IDGAF, will make the biggest splash next year and surprise everyone? I think that just became a Mortal Kombat song. I don't know. I don't know. This season's weird. I can't point to anybody and go, that's the breakout. That's the person that's going to surprise me. So, we'll see. I'm probably going to be just as surprised as everybody else. That's my theory. That is my theory. I see Net is on there, so... Alright, Net, where you at? You're on there, but you're not online. So I can't get you to tell me whatever your question was going to be. Well, I don't know. I don't know what his question's going to be, and he's not on Discord, so I can't ask him directly. Let me try anyway. Where's your question? See you on page. Letting him know that I came to the list and that I just asked him the question. No more questions. Yes, that is mistyped, but I'm gonna leave it. So, people didn't touch on the topics that I thought they were going to nearly as much, which just goes to show you that no matter how much you predict, sometimes you get shit wrong. So, let's talk about Austin's offseason. Yeah, because there's no denying it. We've taken some punches. We have. There's two specific situations. And then the first is well, not the first in terms of timing, but Run decided to move on, which I will say that to add on to anything Joe says, if you haven't heard his podcast, go listen to his podcast, obviously. To add on to what he said, I can say that I feel like him wanting to go was almost as much of a surprise to him as it was to us. That doesn't make it easier. It doesn't make it not a gut punch that he would want to leave and go chase his fortunes elsewhere. I'm not gonna yell or be mad or anything like that because that would be stupid. This is a league for fun, and even though I'm literally more devastated about this than I have been for anything in my life, I'm just fucking with you. Uh, it's a thing, and I didn't even consider the possibility until he started talking and it clicked in that he might think about leaving. So it kind of blindsided me, and I said as much. Um, but I did what I do. I did what we do. I was under shock for a bit. I just got to work. Got to find that next plan. And I, had a plan B and a plan C and a lot of things that moved around. And I won't go into all those details, but I had a player that we were talking to about doing a couple of different things, and eventually settled in one spot. And once that happened, we were able to kind of move other people who had expressed some interest in doing different things than what they were doing. And then I was building plans to go outside, and I went inside first. I always like to go inside my own team first when things like that happen, when opportunities arise, just to make sure people are or aren't interested in possibilities. Because if a position exists, and somebody on your team wants to play it, my philosophy is let's get them in there. I'll just replace them at their position. That's fine. I would rather build from within and then bring people from the outside to fill the extra needs, rather than just you stay in your role and I'm just gonna bring in somebody from the outside to do the thing that you were interested in doing. It's not my way of thinking. So we danced. We danced a lot. We danced. Danced internally and danced externally. I started. I mean, truth being what it is, we found out the other morning. There's about a 16-hour window between where I realized he might actually leave and him telling us he left. And by the time he had announced, I was already working on replacing him. In fact, my plan was to just sign somebody, not just somebody, but my plan was to sign this replacement and then just kind of release him and go work. Just go do what you're gonna do. I don't want you to be conflicted about this, so I'll take the decision out of your hands. He made the decision before that happened, also good, and we adjusted. We found out the news and we were set on our new path the same day. So that goes back to what I was talking about earlier. Flexible team, we have a flexible way of running things because you need to be ready for the hits you don't expect. And this was the biggest hit by far in the history of the franchise, which sounds lofty, but really is 4 seasons and change, counting original drafts. Net also didn't actually have a question. He was just looking at the questions. Just been updated. So that was one gut punch, which we did adjust to. We just moved some people around, and we have plans going forward, and we had other plans that we didn't have to put into fruition. And there's a Marshal Ney, who's one of Napoleon's top generals. He's the guy who's responsible for the quote, "No plan survives first contact," which is essentially you can have the greatest, best strategic plans possible, but the second you and your opposition actually run into each other, your plans go out the window because all sorts of shit you couldn't have predicted, didn't predict, will happen. Things will break in ways that you didn't think they would break. And all of a sudden, your grand plan goes to shambles if you can't be flexible and you can't adjust. And so I always try to have plans that allow me to adjust. Definitely something you learn sometimes hard. Sometimes you learn that hard in the real world, and being able to take that lesson and apply it here has helped a lot, especially for when the unexpected like this comes up. We've been able to, within a day, the team was set and ready to go. We didn't have to sign a single outside player. We didn't have to make any kind of desperation trades. None of that. We were ready to go. Because that's what we do. That's the team we're going to be. We're going to be the team that takes hits and keeps on coming. And we took more than one hit. And now I'm letting Net know that I am recording. I'm talking to you right now while I'm recording about talking to you right now. Inception. Oh. I really typed all that to him, by the way. He says hi. Net says hi. So, that was the one thing. And I will also say, I gotta give some shout outs and some credit to my war room, particularly Dermot, because while all these things are up in the air and I'm juggling and we could go this direction, we could go this direction, so I'm kind of relaying some of it to them, because I can't go, here's the entire plan, as it changes. So give me basics, okay, here's what's going on, nope, this is what's going on, nope, this is what's going on. So the plan is changing 4 and 5 times in the space of an hour, and he's losing his mind, as he is wont to do, because he's Dermot. Oh, get more comfortable here. So, having to sort of put up with that and being able to be there to bounce ideas off or things like that is super appreciated. It definitely helps a lot. Because a lot of times, no matter how good my vision is, no matter how many different things I see, other people see different stuff. If I see 95 out of the 100 possibilities, and they cobble together the other 5, that's a massive win. Because it's stuff I would have missed, and now it's stuff I can adjust to or plan for, or we can slightly change direction to go into that instead, if it's a better idea. And so, shout out to my war room. There's a reason y'all don't have to do mock drafts. Appreciate y'all. So that's the one. The other big gut punch is the Butters situation, obviously. I know a lot of people, also in my work and elsewhere, are people are displaying a lot of faith in the judgment with that situation. And it's something I'm horribly comfortable talking about it. And I'm going to. I'm not horribly comfortable talking about it because it's not something that anyone should really be comfortable with. But the basics, those of you who haven't heard Joe's podcast or haven't paid attention, is that Butters was on our team, and he expressed to me that he felt attacked by a number of a whole bunch of people, call it. One of those people being Waldo. So he was at the time, Butters was at the time expressing to me that he wanted to put in a complaint to HO about Waldo harassing him, essentially, nonstop. And so I saw Waldo in a conversation, and he did make some negative comments on Butters, who wasn't there because he wasn't on that channel at the time. He has since rejoined the channel, of course. And so I picked a fight. I went after Waldo. I said some very mean things. Felt they were appropriate. I took some accurate things and I trumped them up quite a bit. I made some judgments which turned out to not be accurate as well. And I went very aggressively at him. I think he may have left the channel as well, because I felt I was defending my player who was being attacked. And then, literally, during the conversation, Waldo threw up some screenshots that reminded me of a situation I'd actually kind of forgotten about. And yet, I was still viewing it as a certain way. I was viewing it as the actions of someone with no malice. And literally the next day, in a different topic, which was Bex announcing her free agency. It's weird how she kind of slides through both these stories, doesn't she? Some other screenshots were shown by Dylan Deluxe. This is all public, so these are the names I'll share. It showed some other events, and that just like massive red flag. For our part, there wasn't anything that really happened in our locker room. With him, he was perfectly fine. There were one or two small incidents, and I spoke to him, and he didn't continue doing what he had been doing, which were like an aggressive joke I didn't like, and we have a channel for people to post pictures of their pets and kids and stuff, because a lot of our teams, parents, and dog owners and cat owners and whatnot. So he posted a terrible picture in there, which I deleted and was like, don't do that again. And then another thing was he kept making jokes about, oh, I guess this person's getting traded. Oh, I guess that person's getting traded, you know, which annoyed me because Austin has traded precisely 0 players that have actually played games for us. That's a true stat to my recollection. I think a couple of the IAs we picked up in the expansion draft. Let me retract that. We've never traded an active player who has played a game for us. We had recently traded a player who had not yet played a game for us, and then Butters on the other end of that trade. But he made quite a few comments about it. I was just like, hey, cut that out. That's not our environment. That's not what we do. But that was it. That was the most thing that actually happened to us. So for me, it was finding out. The red flag was hearing, wait a minute, this is another story, and that I had an inclination, just a tiny one, that there was something off due to a conversation with another GM at one point who just didn't want to talk about it. So between all this, I went and I sought somebody out who I thought would have the information, and I basically asked her, there are a bunch more stories like this. And I think I knew the answer was going to be yes, but the answer was actually more like, oh Jesus, yes. And so I got a hold of a list of people to talk to, and I talked to about 5 different people, and I got some stories, and I got a bunch of stuff I'm not going to share from people whose names I'm not going to share. I will say these are not people I believe who make things up. These are people who, if you knew their names, you would say, oh, that's a trustworthy person. Oh, that's a respected person. Or, oh, everybody likes this person, even. At times. So there was I did also see some screenshots, so it wasn't just people telling me stories. I saw some screenshots of conversations and things that happened, and certain patterns emerged. Meanwhile, while I'm doing this, I'm speaking to him himself, Butters, on the side, and I'm saying, listen, your apologies aren't good enough. The way you're behaving isn't good enough. You have to take responsibility for these things. You have to actually apologize to people. You have to step up, essentially. You can't just disappear and go, well, I'm not doing anything, so I don't know why people are still upset. And I spoke to him for several hours, and I did not like the way that conversation went at all. And that's, I think, part of the story that hasn't really come up is, yes, I did talk to him quite a bit directly about the issues, and I didn't like how that conversation went at all. I didn't like the future based on that conversation. That was the point where I let my war room know we were going to let him go. And then it wasn't well received because I was operating on information that I couldn't really share. I could share tiny bits and pieces. I found a couple of statements that I could put in there that were anonymous and secret enough that there's no way you can connect me to the person who said them. And I'm literally talking like one sentence out of a paragraph or something like that. Just to give them an idea that I'm doing this based on something. And so, conversation, talking to the war room, having made the decision, continuing to talk to people. Because after about the second person, I realized this was such a huge issue that I spoke to the commissioner and said, hey, here's what I'm doing. And I'm going to try to put together some kind of basic summary for you, because I feel like we've hit the point where this should be actionable. So I talked to several people. It quickly became apparent that they were talking amongst themselves as well, because people were not surprised I was coming. Hey, I've heard you talking to this person. I heard you talking to that person. That's good. I got a couple of thank yous. Thank you for someone actually doing something about this. It just blows my mind. There's so much information that I'm trying to disseminate here. I learned a lot of stuff that was just all negative from a lot of people. I learned very bad patterns that happen. I learned that there is evidence, or there did at one point exist evidence of him lying about the intent of his screenshotting someone's IP address. And there was another one too. There was so many things. Unfortunately, I couldn't share these things with HO because, as it turns out, a bunch of different people have just flat out erased all contact they had with the messages, the exchange. People independently just, I am so fed up with this, I'm so over this, I'm so triggered, for lack of a better term, that I just can't have this exist in my realm. People who, I think I could find that, but I just really don't want to go through that again by looking at it all. This is like, these are, people are displaying signs that in the real world, for lack of a better term, you would immediately associate with trauma. As someone who was raised by a narcissist, amongst many other lovely qualities, I spotted this pretty quickly. I could see that pattern. He does these things. Again, I apologize for the lack of detail, but it became clear to me very quickly that we were operating at the level of, I'm just going to call it harassment, that shouldn't exist in our league. And I probably jumped the gun a little bit. Some people, especially in that war room, going, okay, yeah, this guy's gone. There's no way he survives this and stays in sleep. Because that was how I felt. I was upset hearing other people's stories. And knowing what I know, I still think that should happen. But I also, sorry, I know it's all broken up. In addition to what I've heard, a thing I kept hearing is that there were other people that I hadn't spoken to or didn't know the names in most cases. None of them sought me out, even though it's clear people knew I was looking and talking. So there were people other than the ones I spoke to who had stories of their own that just didn't want to talk about. And so I didn't. Once it hit the point where I'm like, okay, this is too much, I stopped looking, passed it all on to the commissioner and said, here, kind of handed them off to a person who can sort of coordinate better than I could, and said I put it in their lap basically, because as much shit as I give HO about the minutiae of the league, the way they handle rules and information and all this other stuff, when it comes to the health of the league and the culture of the league and the way its players treat each other, I have full faith in our HO to handle shit properly. Even if I suspect they're going to be more lenient than I would be. HO has a history of that through different incarnations. There's no place here. There's no place for it anywhere as far as I'm concerned, but this is the part I can affect. There's no place for that here. There's no place for people. This is not a place where people should feel so attacked that they leave. And it's not a place where this should happen so many times with nothing to show for it. We're here for fun, y'all. Like, this is a hobby. This is a game. We're here to fuck around and do stuff in our off time and just there's no place for this. He shouldn't be, because I don't think he can handle the way he should behave. Sorry, I'm gonna put this in the right words. It's just if it was up to me, he'd be out of the league right now. Banned, IP banned, all of it. Just gone. He's the most toxic person in the history of the league, according to the examples that I've had. Yes, that's a lofty statement, I'm aware. And obviously I'm a little too deep into it. And that's one of the reasons I handed it off so quickly. It's because I recognized that a more critical eye than mine needed to be looking at this. I don't, however, I don't regret that we gave him a chance. I don't regret that we brought him in with this idea that, it'll work out here. I'm going to do that 10 times out of 10. No matter what the result is the first 9 times. It could be this 9 times in a row, and I'm still going to do it the 10th. And if I take the hit for that, I take the hit for that. But this was a sucky situation, and I hope he turns it around if they give him a chance to. I don't know what's going to do. I don't know what the timeline on all that is. And really, no one should bug HO about it. Let them take their time and figure it out. I've just washed my hands and gave it to them. And I don't know what, if anything, is going to come of it. I have spoken to a couple of GMs, as Joe did as well. But obviously, I have more information. Not that I can share most of it, because I told people I wouldn't. I promised people I wouldn't. But I really do feel like a number of people talked to me simply because I promised them I wouldn't share it. And so I'm keeping that promise. People shouldn't have to deal with this. We shouldn't have to, in my view, have to show up every day to have fun and see this person just walking around like nothing's wrong, like nothing happened. It's not okay. So I hope it goes somewhere. But like I admitted, I'm too into it. I'm not an unbiased source of information. I'm not a critical eye at this point. I'm someone who went looking for information and found way more than I thought I was going to. And it affected my team. It affected our plans. But those things are secondary, really. The ability of players in the league to have fun is paramount. It's above everything else. So when I see something, when I see players, plural, in droves, feel like real negative emotions about something at this level, at the level we're operating at in people's lives, it upsets me as well. And that's partially why I made the decisions I made and have taken the road I've taken with this topic, and why this is probably the most information you're going to get about it. I don't know that HO is going to give you full, clear details either. But I do fully believe the people I talk to, and I do fully believe that there's evidence out there that he broke additional rules, that he lied about rules that he broken, about his intent for breaking rules, and these things ultimately are backable offenses. I hate to ask, but those of you who have some evidence of that, if you take it to Dwyer, sorry, involved in the topic. That's as much as I'm gonna say about that. So let's I've got a couple minutes left. Let's that was our off season. Those things. Those two situations primarily. And we're still here. We're still standing. And we had some setbacks. But those punches didn't knock us down. And what comes next is us getting the counterpunch. For 13 weeks against every other team in the league, on the field, without personal drama, without all these other things. What comes next is the fun part. And while my coach EM did not like the team's suggested hashtag fist for league, that's about the plan, really, though. we come. And they say that which doesn't kill you make you stronger, which is actually just not true a lot of the time, medically or scientifically. But you are the things you overcome. You're better than the things you overcome, I should say. And that's meant in both a serious way, because it is very true, and also meant in a game way, because this is a game. And from a game aspect, we've taken some shots, and we're going to overcome, and we're going to keep rolling. Sure, the train got a little slower for a minute. Doesn't matter. We're going to keep going. because the most terrible thing that could possibly happen is us losing steam and losing ground in a long-term fashion for things that shouldn't. So that's where we are. Moody is our running back for Mako Mendonca is our running back for the duration. Django Inouye is on the verge of retirement. This should be his last season. Net Gaines is going to flip from linebacker to wide receiver next season. Dick Wizardry is in regression, and my next recreate position is up in the air. Easton Cole was the best quarterback through 12 games of last season, and he's going to be fighting for that title again. Chase Jensen is actually I can't see the actual awards voting. I mean, we did the awards voting, but I can't see the totals, so that's helpful. I think he's a favorite for Defensive Player of the Year. We've got young players all across the board. We've got all kinds of things happening. We've got a kicker. We're in good shape, and we're gonna keep going forward. And I promise you, the next podcast will be a little more fun. But just needed to address some things. I'm probably not getting 1.5 media for this, but I didn't really do anything with the draft anyway. We took a draft off. It is nice when you've built well enough that you have to take a draft off because you literally have one too many players on your roster. And it's good when you've built well enough that when you get hit in the mouth by unexpected things, that you're able to recover without, like I said earlier, without desperation trades or without going from the outside, which we could have done anyway. But we found ways. Yeah, it's what we do. We find a way. Now we're gonna fist the league, or heat the league, or whatever wording you want to put on there, and yeah, that's that. I will talk to y'all later. So, sorry, my mind's a little scrambled. I've essentially run out of things to say, and Daisy's still napping, so no Daisy. She heard her name. Hang on. Go nip it. Now getting in the show. Hello, I love you too. I'm gonna say hi to your fans. No. So, for me and Daisy, for my entire locker room, who doesn't put up with bullshit, for my wonderful co-GM, who always keeps me on my toes and keeps me honest, for my war room, for Mrs. S, who's in the restroom currently, and for the people I can't name. You all have a good one. Take care of each other. Keep it fun. And, that's such a perfect picture. I'm just going to hit stop on that picture.